It's interesting, isn't it? On by-election victories and various different sorts of results, obviously the winners always say it's because they've won resoundingly and it's time for change. And no doubt the Tories will just sort of say, oh, well, this is a by-election and things happen in by-elections. How do you read it?
Well, I think normally you can take by-elections results with a bit of a pinch of salt. Normally the turnout is pretty low. Normally it's an opportunity for constituents to rage against the government without their rage meaning very much. They know that the government isn't actually going to change hands, so they can choose to vote for the opposition party as a sign that they are discontent with what's going on right now. But this time, I think, it is too much of a massive swing away from the Conservatives just to try and explain it away. To lose Tamworth would have been very, very bad for the Conservatives. They had a 19,000 majority there. But to lose Mid Bedfordshire as well, where they had a 24,000 majority, is really pretty shocking. Yes, turnout was low. Yes, there'll be sort of anger votes against the Conservatives, but swings of this size are pretty much unprecedented. The swing in Mid Bedfordshire away from the Conservatives was the second biggest by-election win for Labour since the Second World War. Now, the first biggest was in 1996, just before Labour swept to that enormous Tony Blair victory. I think what we're hearing in Westminster this morning is that until now, the idea of Labour just sweeping across the map in a huge general election win of the kind that we saw in 1997 with Tony Blair was thought to be pretty unlikely, given that the Conservatives at the moment have an 80-seat majority. Now, the prospect of a Labour win on that scale is looking increasingly likely. Things are looking very, very good for Keir Starmer. And now, to me, it's just a question of how long Rishi Sunak will be able to hold off calling a general election. We were all expecting a general election either in the spring or the autumn of next year. Now it's looking quite likely that he could hold off until December 2024, just in the hope that things can get better for the Conservatives. At the moment, things are very, very bad indeed. We are looking at the sort of redrawing of the electoral map that we saw when Margaret Thatcher swept to victory and when Tony Blair swept to victory.
Yes, has Keir Starmer been saying anything yet? Because obviously we're going to be hearing calls for an early general election, but that's just what they say, isn't it, the day after?
It is always what we hear the day after, and I'm sure we'll hear the same from the Lib Dems as well. We're expecting to hear from Keir Starmer, I think, in about an hour, maybe a little bit more, and I'm sure we will hear a call for a general election. I expect Rishi Sunak will not want to heed that call. What he believes at the moment, so we're hearing, is that if he can hold off until the very end of next year, then he's hoping that some of the chaos that's ensued from rising interest rates will have calmed down. So he's hoping that inflation will have fallen, interest rates will have fallen, and people on mortgages will be in a better position and perhaps more willing to vote Conservative. It's a pretty big gamble because, of course, we're going to have more by-elections just like this one, and the expectation is that Labour will just keep on winning. We're also then expecting local elections next May, and if the Conservatives are trounced in those local elections, as they have been in these two by-elections, then Rishi Sunak will be in an even worse position going into a general election next December than he would be if he chose to have it earlier. So it'll be really interesting to see how Rishi Sunak responds to the, as you say, inevitable calls for a general election over the next few hours and days.
What would you put your money on, early or late?
I would put my money on a late general election. I think Rishi Sunak would like to hold out. He's a very cautious man, and he knows that if he can extend the pain, push the pain down the road a little bit, then that'll probably be easier for his MPs.
OK, we'll join you a bit later on then, Olivia. Thanks very much indeed for that.